You're not going to believe this. 7 doctors, specialists, experts, people with years of training were completely confused. A large screen was glowing in front of them, showing a problem none of them could solve. Not the surgeon, not the neurologist, not the senior medical director, not even the American woman who ran the entire department. But then, a Filipino guy, wearing casual clothes, holding a water jug, someone they barely noticed, stepped forward. And in just 10 seconds, he solved what the doctors couldn't. What he said changed everything. But before you judge anyone, this story is not just about intelligence, it's about humility, ego, and the surprising truth about who we often underestimate. Today I'm going to tell you exactly what happened in that office, the lesson behind it, and the reason why moments like this are happening more and more all around the world. Imagine a busy, high-end private medical office in a big city. The kind with glass walls, clean floors, expensive computers, doctors in white coats walking around with tablets, talking in medical terms most people don't even understand. On this particular morning, something was wrong. Really wrong. The doctors were gathered around a giant flat-screen television mounted on the wall. On the screen was a huge lounge filled with patients. Something in that lounge was causing a growing problem and nobody knew how to fix it. Every few seconds, an alert popped up on the screen, and each alert was getting worse. The American woman, the department head, was watching with a serious face. She was known for her leadership, strict standards, and sharp mind. She wasn't wearing a uniform that day, but the entire room treated her like the boss she was. Now, here's where the story gets interesting. In the corner of the room stood a Filipino guy, wearing faded jeans, an old t-shirt, hands dirty from work. He wasn't part of the elite medical team. He wasn't a doctor, he wasn't a specialist. He was there to deliver a big water jug to the office dispenser. That's it. That was his job. He quietly lifted the 5-gallon bottle, set it in place, and did what he always did, blend into the background. He didn't talk unless he needed to. He didn't interrupt people. He didn't bother anyone. But on that day, he noticed something the doctors didn't. The issue in the lounge was serious. Patients had been waiting too long, the system was showing errors, the alert kept flashing, process failure, unknown source. The doctors tried everything, restarting the digital queue, checking the patient intake system, reviewing emergency protocols, calling IT, discussing medical risks, even arguing among themselves. But the truth was simple. They didn't actually understand the system itself. They only knew how to use it, not how it worked. And the American boss? She was frustrated, not angry, just stressed. She could see the problem was getting worse by the minute, and the doctor's pride wasn't letting them admit they were stuck. One of the doctors said, "The system must be broken." Another said, "Maybe someone bypassed the queue." Someone else guessed, "Could be a patient overload." 7 brilliant minds, 0 correct answers. The minutes ticked by. The problem wasn't just technical anymore, it was affecting patient care. People in the waiting room were getting restless. Nurses were calling for updates. The pressure was building. One doctor pulled out his phone to call the IT department again. Another suggested shutting down the entire system and restarting from scratch. The American boss shook her head. That would take hours. They needed a solution now. But standing behind them, holding an empty water jug now, the Filipino guy tilted his head. He recognized the screen layout. He recognized the error message. He saw exactly what the problem was. Why? Because he used to work with systems like this, but nobody ever asked him. Nobody even thought he might know anything. He watched as the doctor cycled through the same theories again. He saw the American boss checking her watch, clearly worried about the delay. He saw the tension building in the room. And then he made a decision. The moment of truth. The Filipino guy took a quiet breath, stepped a little closer, and gently said, "Ma'am, that's not a system error." Everyone froze. All eyes turned to him. One doctor raised an eyebrow. Another whispered, "Who is this guy?" A third doctor looked annoyed at the interruption. The American boss didn't say a word. She just looked at him, curious. The Filipino guy pointed at the screen. "That lounge camera is showing a delay. It's not live. That's why the system thinks patients aren't moving. The camera feed is frozen, not the system." The room exploded with confusion. "That doesn't make sense," one doctor said. "The camera wouldn't cause a system failure," another insisted. "Are you sure?" a third asked, skepticism clear in his voice. The senior neurologist crossed his arms. "The error message says process failure. That's a software issue, not a hardware one." But the American boss didn't interrupt him. She listened. She had a reputation for this. She respected people who made sense, no matter their position. The Filipino guy continued calm and steady. "If you restart the camera feed, the cue will correct itself automatically. The patients aren't stuck, the video is." He explained further. The system tracks patient movement through the camera. When the feed froze, it couldn't see people leaving, so it stopped the cue thinking there was no space. It's a safety feature. Silence. Tension. Everyone looked at the screen again. The American boss studied the monitor for a moment. She noticed something she hadn't seen before. The timestamp in the corner. It hadn't changed in 3 minutes. And then she said quietly, "Restart the camera feed." A technician pressed a button. The screen blinked. The lounge camera refreshed. Patients started moving again. The alert stopped. Everything returned to normal. The doctors? Speechless. The American boss turned to the Filipino guy and asked, "How did you know that?" He shrugged, not in a proud way, just humble. "I used to fix surveillance systems back home. I've seen this era before." What happened next changed the atmosphere completely. The American boss smiled, genuinely impressed. "Thank you. That saved us a lot of trouble." The doctors' faces suddenly softened. They weren't angry. They weren't embarrassed. Most of them looked grateful, but also surprised. Because the truth hit them hard. They had overlooked him, not because he wasn't smart, not because he didn't know anything, but because of how he looked, what he wore, and what job he was doing. And that's the mistake many people make. We assume intelligence only comes with uniforms, titles, and degrees, but life doesn't work that way. The Filipino guy didn't have a lab coat. He didn't have a badge. He didn't have a title. But he had experience, skills, and knowledge that nobody in that room had, and he used it to solve the problem instantly. The senior doctor who had been most skeptical walked over. "I apologize for doubting you. That was impressive thinking." Another doctor asked, "Where did you learn about these systems?" The Filipino guy explained he had worked as a technician in Manila for 5 years before moving abroad. He had installed and maintained security and queue management systems for hospitals, malls, and offices. He knew these systems inside and out. "But the jobs here," he said quietly, "they don't recognize foreign certifications, so I take what work I can get." The room fell quiet again. But this time, it was a different kind of silence. It was understanding. The deeper lesson. After the problem was fixed, something surprising happened. One doctor approached him and said, "Thanks, man. I didn't even consider the camera angle." Another said, "You saved our whole morning." And the American boss? She asked him for his name. When he told her, she smiled and said, "I may need your help again."
For someone used to being ignored, that meant everything. But the deeper lesson is this. Intelligence is everywhere. Wisdom is everywhere. Skill is everywhere. And often, the smartest person in the room is not the one with the most degrees, not the one with the highest salary, not the one with the biggest office. Sometimes, it's the person you least expect. Think about it. How many times have you walked past someone and made assumptions? How many times have you dismissed someone because of their job title or appearance? We live in a world obsessed with credentials. We trust the diploma on the wall more than the person standing in front of us. We believe the job title defines the intelligence. But real-world experience? That's often worth more than any degree. The Filipino guy in this story didn't have a certificate to hang on the wall. He didn't have letters after his name. But he had something more valuable. He had hands-on knowledge. He had problem-solving skills developed through years of actual work. And when the moment came, those skills mattered more than anything else in that room. The global truth. Now, let me say something important. This story is not rare. All around the world, in hospitals, engineering firms, construction sites, hotels, ships, airports, Filipinos solve problems quietly, humbly, and brilliantly. But here's the sad part. They're often underestimated. People see the uniform, the job title, the appearance, and assume they know nothing. But many Filipinos have mechanical skills, IT experience, medical knowledge, engineering backgrounds, technician training, and real-world problem-solving ability. They don't brag, they don't show off. They just get the job done. And that's why in this story, the guy nobody noticed became the guy everybody respected. Let me share some context you might not know. The Philippines has one of the highest rates of skilled workers in Asia. Engineers, nurses, technicians, IT professionals, they're trained to international standards, often better than many developed countries. But when they move abroad for better opportunities, their credentials aren't always recognized. A licensed engineer becomes a factory worker, a registered nurse becomes a caregiver, a certified technician becomes a janitor. Not because they lack skill, but because the system doesn't see them. And yet, they adapt. They take whatever jobs are available. They work hard. They stay humble. And they wait for moments like this. Moments where their hidden expertise can finally shine through. This Filipino guy could have stayed silent. He could have thought, it's not my place to speak up. I'm just the water delivery guy. These are doctors. They know better than me. But he didn't. He took a chance. He risked embarrassment. He risked being dismissed or laughed at. And because of that courage, he changed his entire future. The transformation. The American boss didn't forget him. In fact, she told the HR team to note his skill. A week later, she approached him and said, "We're opening a new assistant technician role. I want you to apply." He couldn't believe it. From carrying water jugs to being considered for a technical position. Not because of luck, not because someone felt pity, but because of skills. He applied. He interviewed. He explained his background in detail, and he got the job. His confidence grew, his salary increased, his responsibilities expanded. People started treating him with respect, not because he demanded it, but because he earned it. All from one moment of courage. But the change wasn't just for him. The entire office culture shifted. The American boss held a meeting with all staff members, medical and non-medical. She told them, "We learned something important this week. Expertise doesn't always come with a title. We have talented people all around us. We just need to pay attention." She implemented a new policy. Regular meetings where all staff, regardless of position, could share ideas and observations. The janitor, the receptionist, the delivery workers, everyone. And you know what happened? More problems got solved, faster, more efficiently. Because intelligence, it turns out, doesn't respect hierarchy. The story didn't end there. Other staff members noticed the change. A cleaning lady mentioned she had accounting experience and offered to help with inventory tracking. A security guard revealed he was a former paramedic and started assisting with minor medical emergencies. The doctors themselves became more open. They started asking questions instead of assuming answers. They became better listeners, better leaders,